Yes, welcome again to Wheat Chats here in your channel, where we often highlight or discuss on issues that affect our lives generally, ranging from health, social, political, economic issues. In our last conversation, we did discuss about the protests in Kenya, um, and we saw that the Kenyans, especially the Gen Z generation, came together to speak loudly against government policy, specifically against the government tax bill. And kudos to the president of Kenya, William Ruto, who did responded positively, but not quite early enough. But we saw the government decline answer to that bill, to the tax bill, and went further to even dissolve his own cabinet, which is kind of unusual of an African African president. So that is one of the a positive thing from that protest. And of course, that didn't come without some kind of losses. We saw people being shot out, people being killed on the street of Kenya. So while that was going on, we saw Nigerians also discussing on how the government need to be reminded of the promises. The new government need to be reminded of the promise they made, which is the New Hope agenda. But amidst even the Renew Hope agenda, we've seen a lot of things going on in the country. We've seen high devaluation of Nigerian Naira, which some of us haven't witnessed before. And I don't think that has ever happened in the history of Nigerians. And so that is why we saw that Nigerians also decided to protest, which was tagged End Bad Governance protest. The question will be, or the question that most people will ask is that, was that protest really a successful one? I would say no, not at all. And that is why Nigerians have always kind of worried or wondered why it has been so difficult to really have a successful protest in Nigeria. But has Nigeria ever had a successful protest? I think yes. I really think yes. I think I remember during the Goodluck Jonathan government, when the people protested against removal of fuel subsidy. We saw people on the street for days, and we saw even people bringing their mattresses on the street, staying on the street, cooking on the street for days. And so that stopped the government from removing the fuel subsidy, which has now been finally removed by this current government. But in recent time, we've seen a high level of insecurity in the country. We've seen a lot of things that have prompted Nigerians to continue to call the attention of this current government. So from my own personal perspective as a Nigerian, I would say yes, protest has sort of been successful in Nigeria, but maybe not largely successful in the sense that oftentimes when the people call the attention of the government to some of those grievances or concerns in the society, most time the government responded in a very negative way, harshly, tried to pounce on the protesters and try to force the protesters from coming forth. And that is why it's a big worrisome to see that in a country of over 200 million people, rich country, you see things not going the way that most of us will have expected it to be. And in the coming days, also, we will be witnessing another protest, October 1st. October 1st, which is tomorrow. Nigerians will also be on the streets to continue to call the attention of this current government to issues of insecurity, high unemployment, bad governance, corruption, even the issue of minimum wage, and a whole lot of those issues. But why that is also going on, some of us, we continue to wonder or reason why, what are those factors? What are the reasons why some of these protests in Nigeria has been largely unsuccessful, or in most cases abortive. So that is to say that there are what we can say, or what we can call or term protest abortive factors. So there are factors that sort of are responsible for abortive nature of protests in Nigeria. We'll see again on October 1st if this of some of those factors we indeed play out. And in a country like Nigeria, one of the factors that we might not take away, which some of us clearly know that is a very serious and important factor, or abortive factor, is the issue of ethnic and religious sentiments. Ethnic and religious sentiments is a very serious issue in Nigeria. We see, of course, Nigeria is a country, we can say it's a secular society, but very religious society. So where you see most of the political class have a kind of a strong affiliation with those religion institutions, either the Islam or the Christianity. And that can be so difficult because you see either a president, either the vice president or the wife of president, as in the case is in the current government, belonging to a strong Christian denomination or Islamic roots. So that could be so difficult. You have families, you have people from different regions also having sentiments as to be in support or be against what people are saying, either for or against the government. And that has played out in some of the protests that happened in Nigeria. I think I remember in the protest of EndSARS, which happened in year 2020. That protest was organized by the young people again against what we call SACS, that is a special anti-robbery squad, which is more like an organized kind of policemen that were put together to fight robberies across the country. So, but the young people realized that some of these people, some of these police people in uniform, end up arresting innocent young ones. So the young people protested against that, but it took a lot of time. I mean, the young ones were on the street for days before the government responded and disbanded that unit. But one thing about that protest was that it was largely popular, largely civilian, largely active in the southern part of Nigeria. But in the northern part, that was not really so active in the northern part of Nigeria. And the reason is not far-fetched, because you see, during the EndSARS protest, the president in government then was from the north, President Buhari. So sentimentally, you will see the northerners will sort of kind of be sort of reluctant to speak loudly, come out loudly and protest against the government of what they see as their own people. So that is one of the factors in Nigeria, or one of the abortive factor that sort of make protests to be difficult to achieve its aim in most cases. Even in the last protest, the End Governance that happened a few weeks ago, or about a month ago, we saw that the protest was largely active in some states, and sort of there was sort of large silence or loud silence in one or two regions of the country. And people will say, why will people decide not to come together, not to speak as a voice? And the one important abortive factor in Nigeria has always been ethnic and religious issue. And that plays in our politics. And it has been really difficult to actually separate Nigerian politics, from ethnic and religion issue. So that is sort of a very, very, very vital abortive factor. And another strong abortive factor, which I think it's vital to a successful protest in Nigeria and in a plural society like our country, is the issue of illiteracy, or what I would say, ignorance by design or ignorance by selection or election. Of course, the illiteracy level in Nigeria has been on the decline. Illiteracy has been on the decline in the last decades. But there is still significant population of the Nigerian population that are highly illiterate. I think about 30% of that population is still kind of illiterate. So which is about maybe about 60 million out of 200 million people. So that is quite significant enough. So, and it's a huge factor because here you see a significant part of that population that doesn't seem to understand what needs to be done, how to behave when there is a protest, and that was witnessed in the last protest, which was the end governance protest a few weeks ago, where we saw a lot of young people in so many parts of the country, even people young, we say children of 5, 10, 10, 6, 16 years old on the streets. And when people don't understand the aim of an action, then that aim might sort of be abused. And that's why you saw in that protest, we saw some kind of lootings, destruction of properties. Properties were set ablaze by the miscreants, by thugs, people who doesn't understand what protest is. And that is a very, very resounding factor, abortive factor in Nigeria, because the government will always capitalize on that. The government will always hinge their own excuse on that by encouraging people not to protest, by even enforcing or trying their best to make sure that people don't come out to protest because of what they perceive that there will be destruction. And this destruction most times is often caused by people who are either illiterate or ignorance of what the entire situation is. And another very interesting factor, which I think, or abortive factor that plays out in Nigeria, is an extractive political class. So I don't know if that will be the most important factor, but I think that is a very significant element in Nigerian either political economic system. So we have this class of people who have sort of kind of hijacked, entrenched themselves in the nerves of the Nigerian society. So if we talk about its political system, its economic system, even in the social system, so this clique of people have sort of hijacked every fragment of the Nigerian society. And that is why we'll see these sort of people, which it could be the political elite. For me, I find it difficult to call them the political leaders, but rather possibly the political elite. So what they do is that they have seen the vulnerability of the society, of the people. So they lean on that vulnerability, impoverish the people more, so that the people become helpless, and they continue to manipulate the people, either through the ethnic dimension, using the religion dimension, even corruption as well. And that is why you see all kind of inducements. And when you see people come out on the street to protest, most of the people on the street, not most, you'll see a good number of people on the street can be bought for a price. So, and the price could be as small as a penny, or it could be all kind of promises. So when you see a class of people who have the extractive mentality, extractive means they are sort of sitting on the wealth of the country, sitting on what is meant to be a national cake, sitting on it and giving bit by bit by bit to a small fragment of the population, sort of induce, sort of influence them. So when there are issues in the society, when people need to come together to speak with one voice, it's often difficult for people to speak with one voice. And so there are so many factors that could be associated with the reason why protest in Nigeria hasn't been so successful as it should be. But I think that these three factors are one of the most important of those factors, the issues of ethnic and religious sentiments. That is quite very vital one in Nigeria. The issue of illiteracy. We still have a very significant proportion of our population, about 30% being illiterate. And aside that, we are not talking about even people who are literate but decide or choose to be ignorant of the well-being or the situations around them. And that is why we can say these are a set of people who can sort of ignorant by design or by kind of selection, and extractive political class. So for me, I think when you look at some of these factors and so many more in Nigeria, it might really be very difficult to have a very successful kind of protest. And when I say successful, what does that mean? Simply means that the people are able to call the attention of the government to a specific issue or issues, and the government is able to respond adequately. So when the government is unable to respond or decide not to respond or decide to push back at the people, so it means such kind of a gathering or a protest is unsuccessful. And that is one of the things we've been, and that is what we've been witnessing in Nigeria in recent time. And I think we might continue to experience that or to witness that, a situation whereby people make attempts to call the attention of the government to issues and with that being upheld by the government. Until when Nigerians are able to speak with one voice, of course, in a population of over 200 million people, it's not possible to have everyone speak with the same voice. But when you have the larger majority of that population speaking loudly on issues, then definitely the government wouldn't have any reason not to listen to such grievances. And that is one of the things that might need to happen before we can say that we have a successful kind of a protest. And I think it's going to be a very difficult thing to achieve in Nigeria, to have a kind of a protest where you have the larger majority of the people come out and speak loudly against government policies. It could be the issue of subsidy, the issue of unemployment, for instance, the issue of insecurity. When people come in the larger majority of that population and speak, and then the government wouldn't have any reason not to listen. But would that be a thing that can happen so soon? Only time will tell if Nigeria is, if we are really at that point where Nigerians are able to put themselves together and speak loudly, such that the government can listen. So I don't know, you might have, as a Nigerian, you might have your own perspective regarding this, or even as Africans, or I mean, you might have your own perspective regarding why protests have been largely abortive in Nigeria or in your own country. Maybe in your own country, some of the factors in your country might not be related or similar to some of the things that we we've seen as abortive factors in Nigeria. So please You can just also put your own comments in the chats. So let's talk about that and see how your countries look different from the case of Nigeria. So until then, so let's see what happens on October 1st, 2024, and see if it's going to be yet a successful protest or not. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. Continue to watch your channel, stay by your channel. Hopefully, we'll have a very interesting discussion in our next episode. Continue to share, like, and discuss the channel with your friends. Thank you so much. And subscribe as well. Yeah, thank you. Bye.